I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, August the 13th, 2014. The 72-hour truce between Israel and Hamas that has been in effect since Monday expires tonight in Israel as talks in Cairo continue. Representatives from the Palestinian and Israeli delegations met again today in an effort to reach a long-term solution to the conflict. So far, no real progress in the talks has been reported. Israel's Strategic Affairs Minister Yuval Steinitz told a press conference in Jerusalem earlier today that he didn't know what would happen when the truce expires at midnight tonight Israel time, but said that quiet will be answered with quiet. Adding, but if Hamas shoots, our counterstrike will be very strong. Steinitz added that demilitarization of Gaza is not just a precondition for any serious relief for Israelis and Gazans, it's also a precondition for any peace settlement in the future. Today in Gaza, 3 Hamas sappers working on defusing an unexploded IDF missile were killed when it detonated. An Italian journalist from the Associated Press, Simone Camilli, and his Palestinian translator, Ali Sheida Abu Afash, were also killed when the Hamas attempts to neutralize the missile failed and it exploded. They were working on an assignment about the aftermath of the conflict in Gaza. The missile was left over from fighting in the area. Jewish organizations are reacting to the United Nations Human Rights Council decision to investigate Israel for human rights violations in its conflict with Hamas, and announced the appointment yesterday of Professor William Shabazz, who has been highly critical of Israel in the past, to lead the investigation. National Director of the Anti-Defamation League, Abe Foxman, called the investigation a farce by a so-called independent panel, which he says is entirely biased against Israel from the get-go, and the outcome is preordained. Foxman said, "We have seen this theater of the absurd before. The inquiry will be stacked against Israel through the appointment of individuals with anti-Israel bona fides like Professor William Shabazz. Israel, understandably, he said, will refuse to cooperate, and finally a harsh, biased, and fundamentally flawed report will be issued, providing fodder to those who have already found Israel guilty on all counts and handing Hamas a phony victory in the court of public opinion." B'nai B'rith International called the Commission of Inquiry illegitimate, saying it was specifically designed to scrutinize not years of cross-border terrorist attacks against Israelis, but rather Israel's defensive response to them. Any suggestion that there is equivalence between terrorism and a state defending its civilians from that threat is both outrageous and unacceptable. And staying with B'nai B'rith, the organization yesterday condemned the American Studies Association, or ASA, for its continued criticism of Israel. This follows a recent press release from the ASA, which solely blames Israel for the conflict in Gaza and completely ignores Hamas, its rocket attacks on Israel, and its use of human shields, and demands that the U.S. withdraw its support from Israel. You may recall that back in December, the ASA also voted to boycott Israeli academic institutions. B'nai B'rith said that the ASA continues to exercise selective memory and bias when evaluating the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, saying this latest demand is just another showing of its complicity with the Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions, or BDS, movement. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo arrived in Israel this morning, leading a delegation of New York State legislative leaders on a solidarity trip to the country. The Unity Group, as it calls itself, which aside from Cuomo includes State Assembly Speaker Sheldon Silver and Senate coalition co-leaders Dean Skelos and Jeffrey D. Klein, met today with newly elected Israeli President Reuven Rivlin and later with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Their day-and-a-half visit is at the invitation of Israel Consul General in New York, Ido Aharoni. The delegation also includes several business people, including Cuomo's brother-in-law, fashion designer Kenneth Cole, who is Jewish and married to Cuomo's sister, as well as Daily News publisher and U.S. News and World Report editor-in-chief Mort Zuckerman.
We know that you're going through a very difficult time right now, and Israel is going through a very difficult time, and that is precisely why we're here. We have both sides of the legislature, the Assembly and the Senate. It's a bipartisan delegation, and we all wanted to come as one in solidarity, in unity, to say to Israel, we understand the situation you are in, we understand what you are facing, and we support your right, your need to defend your people against terror.
Award-winning, legendary, iconic actress Lauren Bacall died yesterday at the age of 89. Bacall, who was married to actor Humphrey Bogart from 1945 until his death in 1957, was born Betty Joan Persky in New York City to Jewish immigrant parents. During her prolific career, she starred in countless films and also on the Broadway stage. She is also the first cousin of former President of Israel, Shimon Peres. Bacall died of a stroke yesterday in New York. She is survived by 3 children. And turning now to our Shalom TV programming for tonight, Wednesday, August the 13th. Coming up after the news, legal scholar and activist Alan Dershowitz addresses the claim that Hamas attacks on Israel were in response to Israel's blockade of Gaza. And Mark Golub addresses media bias against Israel. That's here on Shalom TV and ShalomTV.com. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Wednesday, August the 13th, 2014. I'm Teisha Bader.